Oh, okay, well, I guess they really weren't kidding when they said that they wrote this episode, the season 5 finale entitled The End, appropriately, for what could have been the potential end for the series. But being that it got greenlit for season 6, and now watching this, I think to myself, maybe I should have ended the show. Because I don't know how they're going to be able to progress forward with this. Which I guess is a good job for the writers, because that kind of cemented this episode as the Infinity War scenario for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in their own little corner of the universe. So going off of last week's episode, we all knew that it was an ultimatum. One of the biggest ultimatums that the show has ever faced, which is to either save Coulson or defeat Graviton based on that little serum that Fitz and Simmons have concocted. The first half of the episode, I'm not going to complain about how the characters were talking with one another, but it was the appropriate kind of chess piece movement that you would expect a season finale to be, because it can't just be all action, 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 or for the sake of this episode, all emotion, 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 one after another, especially after the beating that we took from Infinity War. So it's cool that there was a little moments of being able to breathe with these characters at least one last time, whether it be Mac and Yo-Yo having a conversation, holding each other one last time, or even Daisy and Deke having one last moment before he departs, in a way that I think we can kind of figure how it played out. It was a really cool, like I said, chess movement. Meanwhile, Graviton is doing his thing to finally land on the one city that hasn't been fucked up by this whole entire alien invasion, or even a Marvel movie for that matter, Chicago. Because God knows that we humans, we can kind of fuck up Chicago on our own. Here is where the team, mainly Daisy, takes her final stand against Graviton, and we knew that it was going to be a climactic clash. But I gotta be honest, it's moments like this where I'm like, why ABC, why Marvel, just give them a little bit more money, because you can tell from the get-go that they want to go big, and all they could really afford is one big lunge of Daisy grabbing Graviton and then throwing him down on that little piece of pavement, and then that's it. And they wanted to go all out, very Batman vs Superman style, or at least the way Marvel movies have a tendency to do, especially recently when we saw with Infinity War, where we had Tony, Doctor Strange, Wong, and Mark Ruffalo going up against Ebony Maw and his other children of Thanos within New York City. It's like S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted to do that and work outside of their confines, but that budget just kept holding them down. And I can't knock them down for that. It just makes me feel sad that we can't see S.H.I.E.L.D. get to that level. And you knew that they wanted to get to that level, and they couldn't. So they had to settle with a couple of movements here and there, but it wasn't the biggest battle that I could have hoped for between Graviton and Daisy, and this reminded me why S.H.I.E.L.D. works best within close quarters, within hand-to-hand combat between our agents and other people within the universe that the S.H.I.E.L.D. team is kind of tackling, mainly henchmen or choreographed moves, especially when you throw in a really good director. Here, they didn't really have that. They wanted to go big, but the money just didn't let that happen, especially when ratings are so low. So that fight kind of ended, but it was cool that it was cross-cut with all these different little scenarios that had me on edge, whether it be May and Fitz and Mac trying to save as many people as possible through those buildings, which I will admit, it was a little clunky of how they were getting from building to building so quickly and evacuating people. I was like, okay, I'll suspend my disbelief, but I thought it was a little weird. But besides that, we also had Coulson falling unconscious. We had that random no-name S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that I recognize him by the face, and I'm hoping he sticks around, but yeah, things were looking kind of dire. So the cross-cutting really elevated the tension in the way that a season finale would, and I was glad to see how it was able to grip me in that sense. But then the big moves were made. Coulson made his last move as director before handing it off to Mac to give Daisy the serum, inject herself, become powerful, and literally just flick Graviton into space, which I thought was a bit of a simple fix, because again, it's that budget that I wish could let them do cooler stuff and could make it that big crescendo of a fight, and instead it was just kind of like it reminded me of Megatron flicking Michael Bay essentially in that first Transformers, where he just goes boom, and that's it. And you know, it was a little bit too quick of an easy fight there. It wasn't even that much of a fight. It was just a little bit of a grasp and turn and push, and that's really about it. And it has me frustrated, but I know that it's not 100% S.H.I.E.L.D.'s fault. But before I can think of any more about that, S.H.I.E.L.D. makes its ultimate play. They finally start they stopped cutting any corners when it comes to killing off certain characters, mainly from the sides or mainly from people that haven't exactly been there the entire way, but you kind of like them. So we're gonna make you feel a little bit of sympathy and emotion for them, whether it be with Lincoln during the season 2 finale or season 3. I think it was season 2 or maybe season 3, as well as when they killed off Trip, and then they finally killed off Ward, but he was kind of a villain, so it's not exactly like you want him to stick around for too long. You didn't want him to stay his welcome, and some would argue that he did. In this season 5 finale, they killed off a major player in the game that was there since literally episode 1. We bid farewell, finally for certain, to Fitz. Fitz does a valiant move of trying to save as many people in these buildings, and it's him who actually gets taken out on screen, not Coulson, which was something that we'll talk about a little bit later. But for the time being, Fitz gets killed, and it was an emotional ride, but it also kind of makes sense. It's a shame that Gemma wasn't there to witness it, but of course that's when the tragedy comes in. That's when it kind of pulls at your heartstrings, knowing that his newly beloved wife wasn't there to say goodbye, and instead she has to be told by Mac, out of all people. And out of all people, Mac was the one to actually witness Fitz's last moments, considering that these were the two characters who were kind of fighting with each other during the past couple of episodes. So it's poetic in that sense, but at the same time it makes you also want to wish that Gemma would have been there. But again, that's where the emotional truth kind of comes out of, and it could make for a much more interesting movie. You know, sometimes the most interesting choice, whether it be in writing something, whether it be an episode, a TV episode, or even a movie, ends up being better than the right or the easygoing choice. And I think that's what they kind of went for here with Fitz's killing on screen and the people that he was surrounded for in that moment. And it's going to stick. It's going to stick a little bit better than possibly even the convention decision to have made, especially if it had involved Coulson, at least on screen. And this also begs the question, did in fact Deke blink out of existence like he was foreshadowing? We didn't see it on screen, but we're led to believe that maybe that did come about since Simmons didn't exactly get to procreate. I mean, unless she opens the season 6 premiere with saying, hey, I'm pregnant because, you know, me and Fitz found the time, but it's kind of doubtful considering how little time they really had because of really tense circumstances. So yeah, it would have been a little bit of a neat visual, and I don't mean neat in the morbid sense, but neat in the sense that it could have given us some finality the way that a season finale should have, of seeing Deke like sitting on a bench somewhere, the camera kind of pans around and then it pans back to the bench and he's not there. I think that would have been a really nice little close-up for his character arc, but Fitz kind of dying also closes out his arc because of the turn that he made during the season, where he kind of went out a little evil, especially with his framework counterpart coming back to haunt him. So doing this selfless act and giving his life, it makes sense. Who he spent it with could be kind of debatable, but I understand where they were coming from. I also understand how they decided to close the episode with not only a dual memorial for both Fitz and also a tribute / memorial for Coulson. Considering he didn't take the serum, they all know that he only has a few days to live, so they decide to give him a proper send-off to Tahiti, of no other places, and it was a really good, poetic, and justified moment for the team. And this was the scene that I think was at the point where it made me realize there's a sliver of me that wishes that they didn't get renewed for season 6, because this is actually feeling rather right. Killing off Fitz and then giving this really well-made tribute over to Coulson, and the way that it was made, not only with a toast and all of our characters saying goodbye to him and literally having him ride off into the very delightful looking beach, as delightful as a CG backdrop can look with his glasses. It was just so right that I'm like, well, this kind of paints a pretty picture in my head that Coulson will not exactly be a part of season 6 when that rolls around next year. Which means that this is kind of taking a page from The Office, where Michael Scott did not return because Steve Carell wanted to pursue other things, and so he retired the character from The Office, and those last couple of seasons didn't have him in it, and because of that, the show kind of suffered. I'm a little nervous that that's how exactly it's going to pan out when we return for those 13 episodes next year, in the summer of 2019, out of all places. So we're not going to be seeing this until next year, post the Avengers movies, and only then we will find out how this team is going to function with each other without Coulson, and now with, I guess you could say, Mac being put in charge, which, by the way, I will admit, not 100% on board initially with Daisy handing off her power of the team over to Mac, because of how Mac is that, like I said, has become a little bit of that Walking Dead character who's kind of like, we need to save lives, you know, we need to do the right thing, God above all else. But I think with him being in charge, he's going to have to make some calls that could make for a very complex arc for the character. So I'm like, alright, you know, maybe they could do something interesting with him in the preceding 6 seasons. Especially since it looks like neither him nor any of the team will have to worry about turning into dust anytime soon. Without going into any deep spoilers, in the occasion that you have not by some chance seen Avengers Infinity War, well, I guess you're pretty safe for now, because unfortunately, and yes, I am heavily disappointed by this, after all the foreshadowing and name dropping the past couple of episodes have done, there is absolutely no tie-in to Infinity War here in this season finale. And I do not like it whatsoever, because I was waiting for it the entire time, and considering that they knew that they had to film this in a way where they can maybe continue it into the 6th season, but should they have been cancelled, they could end it poignantly right here and then. They did not include any of the circumstances from what happened at the end of Infinity War. And that could have led to a potential bummer, especially if they did in fact get cancelled, because that would have been the cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers. So I understand why they did include it, but considering the really late season 6 renewal, it frustrates me to no end that we didn't see those circumstances play out, which is why ABC, stop fucking around. I am laying my protest here and now, not for the show, not against the show, but against the network. Stop toying around. I am serious. I am dead on serious. If you're gonna cancel the show, let them know early. Let them know what's going on, because at this point, I'm scared that the 6th season will falter because of this. Because now they have no choice but to release these 13 episodes in the summer of 2019. Which means that this is going to be post-Avengers 4. Which means that none of that shit that happened in either Infinity War or even what goes down in Avengers 4, whatever it is not going to affect the show. Which part of me thinks that that's kind of cool, because it's like, okay, they can play by their own rules. They don't have to tie into the movies. They can do their own thing. But at the same time, it also kind of distances it, and it alienates it a little bit more. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, and it's all because ABC just doesn't know what to do with the show until the very, very last minute. And because of that, these writers take a little bit of that slack, because then they're like, okay, do we write it this way or do we write it that way? Please let them know what is up. In fact, right now, I want you to let them know, is season 6 going to be it? Considering you gave them 13 episodes, please, just let them know already that, yes, it's going to be the end. Please. That way they can end it with some finality. They can tie in so many other things in a nice little bow, and can give these characters a proper send-off without ever having the finale be like, maybe it could be, maybe not. I just don't. Stop. Just stop teasing me. Stop giving me blue balls. Just end it or don't. It's killing me. So with that rant aside, this was a really good season 5 finale that ended in a way that really did make me wish that the show was ending right here and right now, because that was a really good way to send Coulson off into the sunset, or into the beach rather, and it was a really good way also to wrap up Fitz's story arc, and also giving that season 5 finale that emotional punch that's required, which obviously almost always comes out of a character death. Sure, it kind of faltered, not because of the way that the episode was written. The episode was written and directed rather well, and also really acted by our actors that have been here in the game for so long. It's just that budget puts so much constraint on what the episode could have been that it's just really hard not to notice it. But again, that's not so much the episode's fault or even the show's fault as it is the network. That, and then toying around with whether or not there's going to be a preceding season after the next, it's really annoying at this point. And that kind of also embodies how I felt about the season as a whole, which is that this is not particularly one of my favorite seasons, and nor is it one of my favorite season finales. But it's still a good one that continues the consistency of the S.H.I.E.L.D. team with the level of quality that is kind of taken out of emotion and storytelling, and also really good character development. So I'm going to be giving The End a solid 8 out of 10. Not one of my favorite finales, but a good one to kind of stick with until the show returns with what I personally kind of hope is the last season. Not because I want the show to end from out of spite, but because I want them to have a proper finale rather than just drag on with, you know, will they or won't they? It's time. So it's time to hear from you guys. Post in the comments below, what did you guys think of the Season 5 finale for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D? Do you think that it did justice to not only the 5th season, but the entire show in general? Or do you think that you're getting kind of tired of the network not deciding whether they should tie in with the actual Avengers movies or not? Or should they continue the show with the proper 6th season? Or do you think that they should end it right here and then with the 6th season so that the characters know in which direction to go based on the writers and everything could be done a little well? Because I'm scared that this 6th season is just going to be like a one more for old time's sake and not necessarily one that is dictated by the story, because I prefer to have the latter more so. So please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you like and share this video, and do not forget to subscribe for more little videos and potential rants such as this one. Thank you guys so much for watching my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews up until this point. It really means a lot. It means a lot that you guys have been checking all of these out for as long as they've been around. And I will see you guys all next year when Season 6 rolls around. Take care. Some person just made off with somebody's purse and you gotta go catch them, and it's a little bit time sensitive, but at least it gets the urgent feeling of being a superhero where you have to go take care of this random crime because random crime happens and they put it here in this game. And then some fucking kid loses his balloon.
Be good now. What do we say?
I'll never let my balloonie go again.
You were supposed to say thank you, you little shit. God damn it. He just abandoned his child.